So we're recording this to make sure that folks who are not able to attend are able to still get the information. But my name is Queen Adesui. I use she, her pronouns. I am a steering committee member for the DecrimPovertyDC coalition. I wear a lot of hats, but that's the hat I'm wearing today. I live in Ward 8, and I'll pass it to Mackenzie, who is co-leading this presentation with me.
Hi, everyone. So happy to see so many friendly faces here today. My name is Mackenzie Darling. I use she, her pronouns. I don't live in a ward. I live in Silver Spring because DC is really expensive. I am the current law fellow with HIPS working in the Decrim Poverty campaign and a SteerCom member. And I'm really excited to kind of get into why we're doing ANC outreach as part of the campaign with y'all today.
Cool, thanks. Do you wanna, there we go. So the advisory neighborhood commissions, which is what ANC stand for, are a nonpartisan neighborhood level elected official. So they're essentially your elected officials that represent your actual neighborhoods, like down to the streets. So we have a lot of them in the city, and they're oftentimes an untapped power in the city. And getting the support of ANC commissioners and getting their ear, going to commission meetings is how we really get tapped into the conversations that are happening on the neighborhood level, and being able to bring forth kind of support that's happening on the neighborhood level up and have it bubble up to the DC Council. So the main job of a commissioner, which Salim, who actually is on here, previously was the commissioner for 8C, and is now running for Ward 8 council member. But the main job really is to represent the voices of people at the neighborhood level. So commissions have meetings every month, or they're supposed to have meetings every month. And some are a mix between virtual. Okay, my bad, Salim, you're just not my commissioner. Yes, their meetings are both, can either be hybrid, virtual, or just in person. There's a mix as of now, but we've kind of chartered like which are doing what. And something we're going to get into a little bit more is what we're trying to score from each commissioner. It's something related to their recommendation that has great weight, and Mackenzie's going to speak a little bit more into why that's really important for us in terms of why we, in terms of getting support from the commissioner and amplifying our effort to decriminalize drugs. And invest in harm reduction resources. I should have started by saying that we, like, giving a little bit more of an explainer of DecrimPovertyDC. We're a coalition that has come together to try to get DC to treat drug use and addiction like a health issue instead of a criminal legal issue, and actually invest in the services and the infrastructure that we need to meet the health and needs of people who use drugs in our city without relying on jails and prisons and punishment. So part of what we're trying to do with our really micro and local elected officials is get their ear, educate them for the folks who are not aware of our efforts, and kind of mobilize both our commissioners and the folks who attend our neighborhood commission meetings in order to bubble up that support from the true ground level up to the council, where we need action to be taken on the council level related to our effort to try to get drug use to be treated like a health issue. So next.
Thank you, Queen. Yeah, so just going a little bit more into what great weight means. So as Queen said, ANCs are seen in the government as like the voices of the neighborhood, and that is actually like politically and legally recognized in the system. So essentially any government agency or government action in DC can ask ANCs for their opinion. And this is done through what is called a responsive resolution. And these are what have to be given great weight by the government agency, council members, the executive branch, anyone who's like asking for the ANC and that community opinion. So when asked if for ANCs to give that responsive resolution, like I said, the ANC's resolution and opinion is given greater weight than if quote unquote average person gave their opinion at a public hearing or wrote to their council members. This does not mean that the ANC resolution has to be adhered to, has to be listened to, but it does mean that whoever requested this opinion has to provide a written acknowledgement of the ANC recommendations and this responsive resolution, and provide explicit reference and explanation to the issues and concerns raised in the resolution. So there are essentially two different types of resolutions that ANC and commissioners can pass. There's that responsive resolution where some government entity has asked for their opinion, whether it's like DC Council wants to know what's going on in Ward 8 and wants to tap the Ward 8 ANCs to speak for their community, or maybe one of the DC agencies wants to know how one of their programs is being implemented, and that has to be given great weight. ANCs can also pass symbolic resolutions, which unfortunately aren't given great weight, but this is when the ANCs can kind of push the narrative a little bit more and be like, we want DC government to be doing this. We want DC government to decriminalize drug use, and we want this in our community. And although that doesn't have to be given the actual consideration of great weight, ANCs are still recognized as like leaders within the community, and their opinions and voices are listened to. So both resolutions have impact and power. It's just the responsive resolutions have like that legal significance. So kind of going into finding your ANC and your commissioner, as Queen said, there's a ton of them. If you're not familiar with the ANC model, each ward is broken up into these ANCs. There's 46 ANCs within the district, and then each ANC is subdivided into smaller areas, which are called single member districts, and that's where the single commissioner is elected and represents. So each ANC is made up of a different number of these single member districts, and those single member districts are represented by one commissioner on the ANC, the Advisory Neighborhood Commission. And then there's multiple ANCs within one ward. Some ANCs have a very small number of single member districts and only have a small number of commissioners, while some have a lot of single member districts that have significant.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dominique Anthony. I was a peer educator for HIPS. I am also a volunteer with HIPS. So I wanted to let y'all know that I'm taking this opportunity to do this meeting with you all. It's my pleasure. Nice to meet everyone. I'm Dominique. My pronouns are she, her, they, and them.
Dominique, I'm happy you could join us today.
How are you?
So like I was saying, there's multiple of the single member districts that have single commissioners that make up these commission boards. We also have some links, and we'll share them at the end. There's going to be a resource folder that we share with everyone. Sorry, just saw Shane's question in the chat. That will help you identify the specific single member districts, commissioners, and commission for your neighborhood or neighborhoods that we want to target in our outreach endeavors.
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge the chat. Shane had asked a question about actually the one resolution we were able to get passed and work with a commissioner who happens to be on the call, Salim. Thank you again for your leadership on that. The response was that there was no response from Trayon or the council when ANC 8C passed their resolution. So, but now we are starting, and thanks for moving on to the next slide. This gears us nicely. We are starting a new effort from that time where we were working with ANC 8C, and now we are looking to do a more expanded effort, especially an acknowledgement that you don't necessarily have to be a resident within specific commissions to kind of navigate this work. So this is going to be a really cool opportunity for folks who have who would like to volunteer for the campaign, and or especially have more capacity outside of business hours, because most ANC meetings are happening between 5 to 7, starting between 5 to 7 o'clock after the work hours. So our first wave for this next effort is starting with Ward 8, 7, and 5. This was intentional because these happen to be the wards that are most impacted, most devastated by drug overdose and drug criminalization, actually in this order. And unfortunately, we are looking to actually push the electeds of these wards to better address this public health crisis and emergency that we're in. So this is why we're starting with these 3 wards. Though we would like to expand beyond that, this is where we're starting for the first wave. Like I mentioned, monthly meetings happen after hours, and because there's so many commissions, there are quite a few opportunities to tap in. We actually have a calendar already that we'll be sharing with folks who are interested in tapping in, and also a tracking document so we can keep track of all of that meetings that folks are attending. But there are quite a few opportunities over the course of the rest of the year, really, to attend one of these meetings. Typically, they are hosted between either Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, either starting at 5 or at 6. So if that availability works out for you, even if you just attend one meeting a month, like that is going to be such a help for us. So we're hoping that this is just like the first kind of meeting where we're grounding ourselves in this strategy and effort that we're conducting. But the goal is to, continue to coordinate attending these meetings. And we're going to walk through the different ways that we're going to plan together collectively to attend these meetings, flag our issue, and get ourselves on the agenda for upcoming ANC commission meetings. Celine, yes, you can share a few things. Did you want to share right now or after we're done?
Oh, it was relative to ANC advocacy. So you tell me when.
Mackenzie, if you're good, we can have him just kind of fill in right here. Okay, cool.
Okay. What I was going to say is what helps oftentimes is if you can just identify one of the commissioners as an ally, that helps you out. And you're going to have to do the work. But if you write up what it is that you want to get through to the commission, I think that helps a whole lot, especially because these are all volunteer positions. And some commissioners may not have capacity to do the research ahead of time. And to be honest, some just aren't knowledgeable about certain areas of, public safety, health, and how they all intersect. And so I would say that if you can find one, that'll help you out. And once you get that one, persuade that one, and then, it can go from there. But the biggest thing is whatever it is that you want to get passed as a resolution, if you can write it, because many of the commissioners that I've worked with in Ward 8, they're not familiar with how to write a resolution. So it's also a learning process for them, as well. So, that's all I just wanted to add.
Thank you so much for that tip. We're actually gonna just share some of the drafting that we've already done. So we want to make this as easy as possible for everyone involved. So including our volunteers. So we even have draft email language for people. We do have a draft resolution that we updated. So we'll have, language to offer the commissioners. We have language for everything, essentially. I think what's most important for folks who are interested and may have capacity is basically to tap in. But we'll have everything that you need to get involved, including, email drafts for commissioners. But I'll pass it back to Mackenzie. Thank you again, Salim.
Yes, thank you. That was a beautiful transition for the next slide. So essentially, as Queen was saying, our goal as a campaign is to organize some volunteers to go and present our draft resolution and the campaign at monthly meetings and really push for ANCs to hear about this. So as a part of that wave that Queen said, we want to start attending monthly meetings in the ANCs for Ward 8, 7, and 5. And we would like for us to be on the agenda to present the resolution. So we wanted to provide email language and some tips on how to do this, but also recognizing we're going to do this like as a collective. I don't want anyone to think like we're just sending you on your way after this presentation to like go do this on your own. This is just so you have everything, as Queen says, to make it as easy as possible. So you want to, so if you want to be on the agenda for the meeting, you have to reach out to the commissioners and ask to be put on the agenda. The agenda is public, needs to be publicly published before the meeting. So you need to ask beforehand to be on the agenda. Some meetings do have public comments time that if we aren't able to get on the agenda, it's still beneficial to go to those meetings, possibly raise the campaign and the resolution, but to actually get a spot to talk about the resolution, we need to ask beforehand. So as we've already discussed, you want to keep your ask short and to the point. ANCs are volunteers. They're doing this after work hours. Our goal is not to send them lengthy campaign emails with a bunch of links and information, because those are going to be lost and ignored because they just don't have the time and capacity. Instead, we want short to the point emails to be asked to give have a space on the platform at these monthly meetings to do that convincing and that information sharing. So you want to also actually identify the ANCs and the commissioners you're writing to, so it's not just like a deleted email. We have a spreadsheet that identifies all of the ANC commissioners and their emails, so you don't have to do any of that legwork. You want to do one email per ANC, identify the ANC and the commissioners' names. In the email, you want to request time on the monthly meeting agenda to make a public comment about the campaign and the proposed resolution. And then you want to actually attach the resolution draft to the email so it's actually in their hands and they can read it beforehand, maybe develop some of the questions they might ask you during the meeting, and then just be prepared. And then another benefit to going to this meeting, being on the agenda and presenting it, is not only to have the ANC's ear, but also to have community member ears who are attending these ANCs who may also want to be allies and get involved in the movement. But there might, yeah.
Can we go back to the last slide?
Yes.
I do want to emphasize the listing out people's names and like how we're addressing the email, because I've heard from several commissioners that if it's seemingly like a blast email, they will ignore because they get a lot of emails. So as personalized as we can get is going to be critical in terms of maximizing our chances that the commissioner will actually open your email and read it, as I'm sure Celine can attest to here, but thanks.
Thank you. And as Salim said, there are opportunities and times where you want to just focus on one individual commissioner. You think that they're going to be an ally, they're well situated to champion for us within their ANC, and it'd be more useful to have targeted outreach and individual prep calls or info calls. So part of the work we want to do as a volunteer group and moving forward, and some of the work you can help us all with, is identifying individual commissioners who may be really strong allies to the campaign or already championing issues similar to our campaign, whether it's public health interventions, whether it's drug policy and drug use in their communities, whatever it is that they might be a really strong ally to our campaign. Or maybe it's an ANC who is just really powerful within their community, very well listened to, has a really strong relationship with the council, and it would be significantly more beneficial for them to be on board in our campaign than not. So there may be times that we want to have these targeted meetings. So similarly to the previous slide, we want to reach out and request a call after 5 p.m., recognizing their work schedule, and request to talk to them about the campaign, the proposal, and how the commissioner get involved. You want to keep the email short and to the point, and draft the draft resolution or the letter of concern, which we will talk about, I think next, about the differences between these things. But really just like building these relationships and allies within the space and the movement who can champion for us.
So this slide covers what our current asks are for ANC commissioners. Right now, the focus really is both awareness and education, because as many educated commissioners that we have in our city, the better for us and our campaign and our community in general. So first and foremost, educating our folks here, and gaining allies, and potential champions, I think is the ultimate goal. But at minimum, just education is key here. Secondly, beyond kind of actually moving through a resolution within their commission, if a single member commissioner if there's only one commissioner within a commission that's on your/our side, at minimum, we want to get them at least signed on to our sign-on letter and our sign-on to a single member letter of concern, just to get their support for the issue documented. And we can, again, share the draft letter and share all of these resources. If multiple commissioners within the commission are on our side, passing one of the draft resolutions would be the ultimate goal. And when it comes to that, there are two kind of cohorts there. So if the full commission is not supportive of the full proposal, but there seems to be more support or leaning towards support for the harm reduction components of the proposal, then we have kind of like a follow-up resolution related to that. And then which is the ultimate goal, which is what I'm about to say, the ultimate goal is to have the commission supportive of the full proposal, which for us is including the decrim component. And that will be the commission pushing the full platform resolution. So we are offering commissioners quite a few of options, not upfront. Some of this is like if they don't support, having them at least support some aspect of the work. The goal really is to get each commission to pass the full resolution in support of the DecrimPovertyDC campaign and its roadmap. But at minimum, if that can't be achieved based on our efforts, we do want to at least have some of the supporting commissioners on a letter of concern, or at least passing the more narrow resolution focused on the Overdose Prevention Center / Harm Reduction Center, which we're hoping to get opened up in DC. Was that clear, Mackenzie? I feel like I was.
Yeah, I think you were clear.
Cool. So lastly on here, and this is something that we'll be working alongside each other with, but just for the sake of our workshop and for folks who may be concerned about how to navigate pushback, we kind of outlined some of the top questions that folks get in efforts, talking to commissioners or just folks in the community. There's a list here. I won't go through all of them, but why do we need decrim? Really talking about why a person who used drugs or someone who's struggling with addiction shouldn't be in a cell. Is kind of how we would respond to that. And if decriminalized, how will people access treatment? Really following up with how the DecrimPovertyDC roadmap invests or seeks investment in actual infrastructure that would address health and the needs of people who use drugs in the city. And we have a more fleshed out FAQs document with many of these questions and more, with citations, with the data that backs up kind of the arguments to really dispel some of these myths and some of the questions that people may have. But we want folks to feel armed and ready to be able to speak on this issue. So as many conversations that we collectively as a group will need to have on how to navigate these questions, we will absolutely have them. But just want to be clear that you have a lot of support here. And we're hoping that folks feel comfortable speaking on these issues. And if you need data or need backup in terms of talking points on how to address a difficult question, folks on the DecrimPovertyDC steering committee are there to support you.
So yeah, that was pretty much our entire presentation. It was just a quick rundown, but we're happy to use the rest of the time to talk through any questions you have, dive deeper into anything we've covered. I'm going to pop to the other slide just so you see the resources we're going to be providing, and so I can access the link to share it in the chat. But the Google folder I'm dropping in the chat has pretty much a step guide to outreach in the email process that we talked about, both draft ANC resolutions, the letter of concern, the contact information for all the ANCs, and a link to a document with all the links that we shared in the meeting today. But yeah, I'll open it up to questions.
I just want to amplify Jamie's comment about access. If we can open up the access for the folder.
Yeah, let me stop sharing screen so I can do that.
Cool.
Yes, I'm sorry. My name is Dominique Anthony, and I'm calling off my cell phone
Okay.
because I have to leave soon. But I have a question. Like the overdose population is so high in DC,
Mm-hmm.
and I was wondering, so what is the ANC commissioner going to do about the preventing of the overdose and the fentanyl as well? Because me being a peer educated for HIPS, I a peer educated for HIPS when I was one back in 2017. There were a lot of people passing away from fentanyl and overdose prevention. And I just wish that the ANC commissioner and the mayor would really help us with this, because it's getting to be a problem. Like I lost my a person that was like my brother. We were really close because I used to date his brother, but he passed from fentanyl. He died in his house. So I'm just saying, like, they need to really do something about this, because we could end up losing half the city because there's no prevention. I mean, yes, you got the needle exchange program, yes, you got the Narcan, but sometimes it's not accessible.
Yeah, no, we agree
It's
with
not accessible.
we
And
agree
I
with you,
just feel
Dominique.
like
And
it should be accessible, and it should be given to I feel like police officers and ambulances to carry that supplies with them, because it's the overdose, especially like in the area that I'm in now. Like it's a lot of people that use drugs, and like I'm down here at Gallery Place. You could see all kinds of things down here. And I'm not knocking the area. I'm not knocking what nobody do, but I just want people to be safe.
Okay, so let's do this. Cat food,
yeah, so
butter.
Dominique, I think I'm not sure if you're still there, but just wanted to honor like what you mentioned. Like we feel the same and like our concern in terms of like why, or our concern related to the lack of urgency on this issue is part of why we're organizing this group to try to get commissioners to do more. So the hope is that, you will be a part of our effort to join some of these commissions.
I will, because I also want to sign up for Chosen Few.
Okay, cool. And Nkiru's actually on this call, so I would reach out to Nkiru, or Nkiru reach out to Dominique about joining Chosen Few. Nkiru leads Chosen Few. But I do want to make sure that we can get to everyone's questions, but I really appreciate you, Dominique, and condolences.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. We'll pass it to Jamie.
Hi, thanks. Just a question. If we don't live in wards 8, 7, or 5, what's the best way? What's the best way to help? I don't know that I would feel comfortable like marching into an ANC in Ward 8 and talking about what their neighborhood needs, but and I also wouldn't know, I don't know the single member districts there or who to reach out to, but would love to support. And I think I'm with DC for Democracy, and I think there's other people there who might want to support, and they might live in some of the wards, but just in case people have questions.
Okay, yeah, no, that's a great question, Jamie. And I appreciate that care that you're offering in terms of wanting to make sure you're showing up in the right way. So Ward 857 is where we're starting, and I want to emphasize that you don't have to be a resident to show up at these meetings, but I understand that folks, especially folks, we all are different people, and I think showing up to certain meetings may be different for different folks. So I think to the extent that you're comfortable coming to a meeting as a concerned resident, even if you don't live in that area, I think that is still appreciated. And I think we can work with you on like how to navigate that. And I don't want to speak out of turn, but if there is a ward that you are more comfortable navigating yourself, like we can track that. And, you know, because our effort right now is focused on wards 8, 7, and 5. And I think to the extent that you have members or colleagues who are in those wards, like please get them to tap in here. But if I believe you live in Ward 4, right? 3. Okay, yeah. So we can work with you on like wards that you're more comfortable navigating. But for now, like our effort is focused on 8, 5, 7. So the best way to help is sharing this volunteer opportunity with folks who live in these areas, and still tapping in with us to the extent that you're able to for the wards that you feel more comfortable navigating, because we need this across the city.
Okay, great. Thank you.
No
I
problem.
also just wanted to hop in and say that there could also be a good opportunity to do like the individual meetings with ANCs, and kind of provide like the background information of the campaign, not so much about like how the benefit specifically in their neighborhood or not speaking for their neighborhood, but really representing the campaign and the coalition in those individual one-on-one meetings might be a better fit and situation, and definitely something we need support on as well.
Thanks, Mackenzie. Did that answer your question, Jamie? Okay, cool. Tamika, I saw your hand was up. Yay, thank you, Jamie.
Well, no, you kind of covered it, so I kind of backed off of responding, but just have like general conversations with any other ANCs, or if you have friends or family that live in other places within DC, you could have the conversation with them and make them have that conversation with their aides. Well, I can't say make them, but suggest they have that conversation with their ANCs about how they feel about it and what the finer points are of the bill and the harm reduction centers with the safe consumption components that we're asking for.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Tamika. I do want to acknowledge the, the delicate nature of navigating this advocacy, because it's so down to the neighborhood. So like, we want to make sure that we are not just, like we're being intentional, that we are being cognizant, and we're being respectful to people. So I appreciate the questions and the concern. But I do want folks to feel comfortable with the fact that we are going to be supporting each other. And if anyone needs support in going to certain meetings, like I'm happy to join meetings, of course. So like there's support in that sense. But yeah, buddy system for folks who are not comfortable, especially first starting out. We're here to support in that way. And as we continue to work together, if it becomes clear that like there is a contingent of folks who are more comfortable doing advocacy, whether it's in Ward 3, Ward 2, Ward 4, all of those wards need this level of advocacy. We're just happening to start with the hardest hit areas. But yeah, happy to help coordinate with folks regardless, but really appreciate your willingness to support. Any other questions, concerns, thoughts? We haven't gotten into this yet, but we would love to kind of get a gauge of where people are in terms of what kind of structure would be helpful going into this for folks who are interested in volunteering. Like, would folks be looking for kind of like a monthly meeting, or would email coordinating suffice, or like what kind of infrastructure would folks need to help, support you in joining us in this? If there are no other questions just about ANCs. Oh yeah, for sure. Shadowing is definitely possible. Yeah, no pressure. Like, I want to be clear, like, folks are in this space with all different ranges of experiences working with commissioners or not working with commissioners, doing advocacy as their day job or not. you know, so we are very amendable to supporting folks. We're just happy that you're here and we're happy that you're willing to support. So I appreciate folks asking and making suggestions in the chat. Shadowing is 100% possible. So yeah.